Hi, and welcome to this live reading from A Tale of Two Crushes by Cori Cooper. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. A multitude of people, and yet a solitude. A Tale of Two Cities. My old Dodge pickup shuddered to a stop in the parking space between a convertible and a lifted truck. I kept my hands on the steering wheel, gripping it so tightly that my knuckles turned interesting shades of white and pink. I leaned forward to stare through the windshield at the massive, sprawling building that was Prescott High School, home of the Badgers. What was I supposed to do now? I didn't know how to be a new student. I've never been a new student before. I went to the same schools with the same people for my entire life. I didn't even know where the front of the building was. I should have made a better plan. I mean, we moved to Arizona almost a week ago, and since going to school is kind of the law, I knew somewhere deep down that I would have to be a new student eventually. It's just that the last couple of months have been a complete whirlwind. It wasn't until I pulled into the school parking lot just now that it really hit me that I wasn't in Durango anymore. This must have been how Dorothy felt when her house landed on the Wicked Witch of the West. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel so that I wouldn't catch the eye of any passing students who knew where they were going and what they were supposed to do next. It was starting to whip me out. My phone twitched with a text, and since I wasn't doing anything besides questioning my parents' life choices, I picked it up. Happy first day of school! Don't knock them dead! I love you! You got this! Oh, Alicia, thank goodness. I really needed her capital letters and ridiculous number of exclamation marks right now. I missed her so badly. It was like someone just put my soul through a paper shredder. I shot back a quick text that sounded way more confident than I felt, then pulled my reluctant booty out of the vehicle along with my backpack and phone. As soon as I shut the door of my truck, the bell echoed through the parking lot. It was fine. I already knew I'd end up walking into class late today. Dad had a deadline and Mom was helping Grandma, which meant I had to take the twins to the middle school. So it was inevitable. They got to school on time and I was late. I had mentally prepared myself to awkwardly walk into my first class and have everyone stare at the new girl, but it still made my heart skitter into my throat to think about it. I stepped onto the curb, somehow misjudging where it was, and stumbled onto the sidewalk quite gracefully. No. My cheeks burned all the way around to the back of my neck as I righted myself. I don't care what embarrassment told me to do. I refused to see if anyone noticed. I swung my backpack onto my shoulders and started walking like I knew where I was going. First stop was the front office. Dad and I tried to complete all my class registration online before we left Durango, but the system was finicky. We weren't able to upload my personal documents or do anything other than submit my name and previous school information. I had a folder in my backpack with all the stuff they needed to complete my registration, including my transcript. Now, all I had to do was find that front office. It would be nice if high schools were like malls for a lot of reasons, but specifically, I'd appreciate one of those big map things that showed you where everything was, all color coded and bold lettered. That would be awesome. I'd like to order one of those, please. Hey, I didn't turn around at first because there was no one in the state or city that knew me well enough to hey me. When the word came a second time and then a third, my brain finally caught on that someone was, in fact, trying to get my attention. Shame wondered if whoever this was wanted to comment on my spectacular tripping back there, then told me to keep on trekking. Curiosity wondered why anyone would need to talk to me badly enough to call out 3 times. Curiosity won out of me. It usually did. I just couldn't stand suspense. I turned around. A guy jogged the rest of the way to where I stood. His brown hair looked highlighted with many gold streaks, which created quite the contrast with the grubby tennis shoes and plain blue t-shirt he wore. Most guys I knew that spent time coloring their hair also spent money on designer clothes. So just guessing here, it was probably his natural color. Nature had been kind. When he got close enough for me to see his eyes, their clear blue color made my breath stall in my throat. It was like his eyes had crawled out of the ocean on a summer day. Cynicism piped up again. Why in the world did he want to talk to me? Every single high school movie I'd ever seen came back to haunt me. Guys didn't usually talk to nerdy new girls unless they had something nefarious planned. He was probably jogging over to mock my Target jeans or fake ask me to prom and then throw raw eggs at me from the sunroof of the limo. Hey, he paused to catch his breath. Is this your first day? Oh no. Is it that obvious? Now paranoia joined the party. Then I looked so out of place, so abnormal, so bizarre that everyone was going to know I came from a totally different state. The rest of high school stretched out before me in an instant. A lunch table, a party of one. Friday nights playing solitaire. Prom night, teaching myself to knit wash rags while I watched reruns of I Love Lucy. I shook myself to get out of my head and said yes in a way that sounded like I had a slow leak and had also suddenly morphed into a snake. The guy's smile never wavered. Awesome! Welcome to Prescott. My name is Asher. And then he stuck out his hand. Wait. I was confused. Was he really trying to shake hands with me? That was what my parents did. Should we be high-fiving or fist bumping or something, I don't know, cooler than a handshake? Insecurity really needed to take a hike. It was kind of driving me bonkers. I took his hand and gave him a solid 2 shakes. Hi, Asher. I just moved here from Colorado. My name's Holland. Holly? I slipped my hand away from his and pushed a lock of hair behind my ear. No, actually, it's Holland, like the country. I loved my name with a fiery passion, but it always did take some explaining. No kidding. That's lit. I wish my parents thought of something like that for me. I could be Africa or like Germany. His voice deepened and added a ton more aggression. Nice to meet you. My name's Germany, y'all. Stepped back with a fake shiver. It's probably good they didn't. Not sure if you're about to mug me or hug me. Hug you for sure, he laughed. Then his eyes met mine and the zip went down my back like someone just doused me with cold water. At first, I thought it was just me, but Asher cleared his throat and looked away so quickly that I had to think he felt it too. So, anyway, Holland, who moved here from Colorado, do you know where the office is? I can help you get there if you need some help. I'm happy to help. He winced. And now I'm going to stop saying the word help. Curious. I tipped my head to the side. Does Prescott have its very own high school welcome wagon? I was teasing, but also serious. I don't think my school in Durango had any kind of new student outreach program, so maybe this was an Arizona thing or a Prescott thing. Basically, I needed to know if talking to me was something Asher was assigned to do or something he wanted to do. Yes, ma'am. He tipped an imaginary cowboy hat and hooked his thumbs through the belt loops. We Prescottonians have a long-standing tradition of high school hospitality around these parts. Then he fake spit into the bushes next to me. I stared at him. Wait, really? He laughed. Actually, I saw you pull up just now. You look stressed. That was way more believable and also super embarrassing. Hey, it's fine. He smacked the side of my arm, grimaced, then shoved his hand in his pocket. Seriously, so don't worry about it. No one else noticed. I'm just a highly observant guy. And the tips of his ears were slowly turning red. He looked so uncomfortable. I wanted to help put him at ease, but the only problem was, me. Alicia gave me a shirt for my birthday last year that said, keeping it real awkward, and that pretty much summed me up right there. Did I say Prescott wrong? I blowed it. Asher looked up and smiled. You can say it however you want to say it. Yeah, no. That's not how anything works in the world. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. I didn't want to start this new chapter the wrong way. How do you say it? Prescott. Yeah, I thought so. When he'd said Prescottonians, it sounded like Prescott. I'd been saying it like Prescott. I'm so glad I caught that before I really embarrassed myself. You can say it however you want, really, Asher continued. I promise there's nothing in the state legislature about city name pronunciation, and no masked ninjas are going to drop from the sky to take you away. You'd do it a different way than someone else. Even though it was incredibly weird, I could stand there and watch his lips say the word legislature for the rest of my life. Are you sure that ninja thing is totally believable? Right. Asher glanced over his shoulder. And yes, I'm sure. My dad's a senator, so I know the state legislature inside and out. You know how some kids get fairy tales at bedtime? I nodded. Yeah, well, me and my siblings got state legislature. I couldn't tell if he was messing with me or not, and I didn't get a chance to ask. Another bell rang, reminding me there was something in his world besides Asher's seafood eyes. Oh no, that's the tardy bell. Is that the tardy bell? You're going to be late. I pulled my phone out of my back pocket and shoved it in the front pouch of my backpack. I didn't want to forget and sit on it once I got to class. You should go. But you need help finding the office, right? He said, totally calm in the face of a tardy. And probably your first class? I don't know why I was trying to convince him to leave me when I really did need help. Correct answer, yes. Actually, that would be great if you could show me where the office is. I'll walk you there. He jerked his head toward the school. It's on my way. Really? Skipped to catch up and struggled to keep up with his long strides. He noticed my frantic hop walking and slowed down to a more comfortable pace. So thoughtful. Asher grinned. I'm an office aide first period. Well, that was convenient. Even though the walk was short, Asher covered a lot of ground. He pointed out a landmark to help me find the parking lot where my truck was waiting, the cafeteria where mostly lower-classmen ate lunch, and the football field where his brother was apparently the star quarterback. Other than the landmark to get back to my truck, I barely heard any of the words he said. I was too caught up in the way he said them. He had a slight drawl on some of the syllables that was just delicious, and there was a dimple in his left cheek that peekabooed every once in a while. I was too busy watching for it to make another appearance. I didn't notice when Asher turned toward a set of double doors. I caught myself just before I plunged headfirst into some hardy yellow bushes. Asher held the door open for me and stood back so I could go first. Thanks, I said as I scooted through. My eyes stayed glued to the shiny floor as embarrassment took over. I really hoped Asher couldn't tell that I was checking him out. That was probably so obvious. In fact, I'm sure I was. It's just that I'd never felt this way before. I'd only daydreamed about it and Mr. Darcy a lot. Asher was too good to be true. There had to be something wrong. I surveyed him from the corner of my eye, trying to find a flaw. His hair really was fantastic, but his eyes were kind of close together, and his nose threatened to turn beaky as he got older. Those were some mighty fine straws I was grasping at. Who was I kidding? Asher was like the perfect guy. It was bonkers to fall for him already. I just met him. What was happening? I tried to distract myself by focusing on the floor, which was not thrilling, but then the trophy case display, a basketball on the top shelf, caught my eye. 1999 champions, Whitaker, McKay, Fernandez. A game ball, I think, and those were probably the star players. Under that was an obviously old picture of a football team, autographed by Linus Whitaker, whoever that was, and a big can-do sign in blue and gold. That's all I got to before Asher led us into the office. Hey, Mrs. Goddard, Asher saluted with two fingers. This is Holland Morriss. Holland Morriss. He shot me a killer grin punctuated with that dimple. She just moved here from Colorado. Mrs. Goddard looked like she stepped right out of an Austen or Dickens novel. Her poofed pompadour and high-neck blouse, secured with a cameo brooch, were at least 100 years behind them now. A pair of glasses hung around her neck by a golden chain, which she lifted to secure the glasses on the end of the nose. She swiveled in her chair to face a computer screen and started moving the mouse through a bunch of screens. It totally messed with my mind. A piece of parchment with a quill would have been a better fit, or with a bit of a stretch, a typewriter might work too. Holland Morriss, there you are. I thought I remembered you. She looked over the top of the glasses and smiled at me. Great name, by the way. Thanks, I said, even though my parents really deserved credit. Perfect. It looks like everything is here. She glanced at me when I let out an astonished breath of air. I know, the system is a bear. Luckily, it was working correctly long enough for me to contact your previous high school, so I think I have everything I need as far as your transcript goes. Let's go through it together, though, just to be sure. Do you have your documentation with you? I pulled the folder out of my backpack and pushed it across the desk. She took it and opened it friendly. I'll need to make copies, of course. Of course, I murmured. Asher held out his hand. I'll do it while you guys figure out our schedule. Mrs. Goddard smiled in gratitude and turned back to the computer. Let's see. Obviously, we have the core classes. No. Took off her glasses and let one side dangle as she squinted at the screen. I shifted from one foot to the other until her eyes found me. You're doing concurrent enrollment with BYU of Idaho? I nodded. Originally, the plan was for Alicia and me to graduate from high school with our CNA certification from Colorado State University, then room together while I finished nursing school and she went on to medical school. That was before Grandma got sick and my parents decided we were needed in Arizona. BYU, Idaho had a great concurrent enrollment program that I could finish up online. It was the best option now that my future was as clear as scrambled eggs. So, Mrs. Goddard peered at the screen a moment longer, then looked at me again. You're just here for electives, is that right? Actually, I was hoping to take a full class load at school and also do college classes at night so I could graduate a year early. I didn't anticipate having much of a social life in a new city with zero friends, but that was before I met Asher. We walked back into the office, my folder in one hand and the copies in the other. When he handed me the folder, my fingers brushed his hand and sending sparklers off my arm. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Goddard smiled at Asher briefly as she took the copies from him. While she flipped through my papers, I kept glancing over at Asher. It was just so hard to ignore. My eyes loved him as much as they loved an old bookstore with shelves of leather-bound classics, which was a lot. Old bookstores with shelves of leather-bound classics were practically my most favorite thing to stare at until today. Asher watched Mrs. Goddard make notes on the screen, his forehead divided into a bunch of lines. He didn't seem to notice that I couldn't stop looking at him. That was a win, I think. Wait, what had Mrs. Goddard asked me? There was a weird tingle in the air, like a question left unanswered. Something about, oh yeah, electives. I closed my eyes to focus in on the words I needed to say next instead of the words, yes, I'm sure I'll marry you, even though we're 17 and I only met you some minutes ago. Dang, this crush was a doozy. It hit me hard and from out of nowhere. I needed to get a grip before it morphed me into a creepy, obsessed stalker. I opened my eyes and snapped my attention onto Mrs. Goddard. That's right. I'm just here for the electives. Well then, you have a choice of Spanish, French, or German for your language. You can do PE or play a sport, and you'll need to choose something artsy from this list. Her hand hovered over the printer next to the desk until the paper finally emerged. She flourished it across the desk and set it somewhere I could read the options. Asher coughed, and it sounded like the word Spanish. I turned my head slightly, my eyebrow raised. Asher coughed again. Spanish was much more obvious this time. Spanish? Asher nodded with a grin. Spanish it is, Mrs. Goddard said without looking up. There's only one class for juniors, so that will be second period. Let's try and get your classes to line up so you can come late and leave early. You'll want that extra time at home to work on college classes. Wasn't so sure I did anymore, but okay. Maybe you should just stop pretending and ask Asher what his schedule was and then copy that. And after that, maybe I could stamp the word desperate on my forehead in permanent ink. Come on, Holland, focus, get a grip. Yes, this will work. Mrs. Goddard turned the computer screen. First period is at home. Second period, Spanish. Third period, girls PE. I believe they start with a yoga unit, so that's nice. Fourth period, lunch. Then fifth period, you can choose between theater, art, and creative writing. Sixth and seventh periods, you will spend at home. Asher didn't pop in with an opinion, and I was getting a grip anyway, so I asked for creative writing. Wasn't very good at drawing, and I hated being in front of people, but I loved to read, so that seemed like the best option. I waited for Mrs. Goddard to enter it in and print my schedule. Since you have this period free, you may sit in the office or Asher can show you around the school. I'd love to see the library, I blurted before she finished talking. I adored libraries almost as much as bookstores. Plus, then I'd be able to spend some more time with Asher instead of sitting in the office like I'd gotten in trouble. That was a no-brainer, really. Mrs. Goddard handed over my schedule and nodded to Asher. Thanks, dear. You have a wonderful first day. Thank you. I folded the paper and tucked it into my back pocket. It was nice to meet you, Mrs. Goddard. I did a little accent on her last name so that I almost sounded like Emma in the BBC movie. The thought made me smile.